everyone and welcome back. This is the PYP Traveler and today we're going to be discussing about a very important issue, the report card comments. So after some messages that I received from many of you requesting me to make a video about the report card comments and how to compose comprehensive report card comments, what to include in them and how to move forward, I thought that this is the best time to make a video about that very challenging time of the year for many teachers, if not for everyone. We spent tens of hours to compose descriptive comments that will be comprehensive and will have all the elements that we need to include in those report cards that the parents and the students will receive in mid-January or at the end of January, depends on the school. And of course this will be our last video for 2020 and I will be more than happy to receive any feedback from you so that we can discuss even more ways to compose term comments. First and most important tip that I have to give to everyone is to start your comments early. It will be easier for you, first of all, to remember how each student did in every single unit. It will be fresh in your mind, you will have more evidence, you will have more time, and gradually you will build up your comments instead of having all the workload at the end of the term and you have to go through all the assessments that you did, you have to go through all the notebooks and all the worksheets that you have distributed to your students throughout the term, and this will be very painful and very time-consuming for you, and most probably you will not include as much detail as possible for the benefit of the children and the understanding of the parents, of course. So let's take that scenario as our case, that you have started accumulating your information from the beginning of the year, and let's see what information you have to include in order for your report card comments to be complete. First of all, you have to consult your PYP coordinator because he or she will guide you through the most important part that you have to include in your report card comments. My video can add some more advice on how you build your report card comments based on what your coordinator will have advised you, of course. So what I do is I separate the report card comment in two parts. The first part is what the students are supposed to know, what students have gone throughout the term or throughout the unit. And then I add the second part, which is how that particular student performed based on what I mentioned in the first part. So that will give a more comprehensive image to the parents to understand what you're saying based on what you did in the classroom. In a PYP classroom, we have the unit of inquiry, we have English, and we have math. Those are the subject areas that the homeroom teacher is responsible for. However, there are other schools where there are not so many teachers, so that means that the homeroom teacher will have to teach PE, they have to teach art, and sometimes maybe they have to teach music. So in every subject area, you have to have one separate comment. Depending on what your school follows, or what system your school follows, probably you have marks. It can be either the managed back way, which is the UED, whatever, like all those marks that we have, or maybe if you are following the Cambridge system, you will have percentages, or you will have A, B, C, D, whatever. It's up to the school's marking system, what you have. In my school, we don't have marks, we have extensive comments, which is more descriptive and gives a holistic image of how the student performed in all the areas that they are working on during the term. You can have your scope and sequence in the one hand, with all the learning outcomes that you have covered in every subject area. And then you can have your own descriptive comments that come from either the checklist and the rubrics that you did, or the anecdotal notes that you kept either for the assessments or from their daily from your daily observation from how your students are performing in the classroom in a daily basis, or both. That is very important to be consistent. It's very important to have everything organized and filed and like marked, so that you have your data at hand and you will not have to search through the folders of your children and try to find out how they performed now, which is the end of Christmas almost. Taking as granted that everything is available, you can start by creating a short essay, starting with the unit of inquiry, or math or English, is up to you. And you will start mentioning the areas that you taught in the classroom. We start drafting our essay. So I will share with you some ideas on how to compose your essay. You will see that we have introductory paragraph where you mention what your transdisciplinary theme was, then what your central idea and lines of inquiry were, and then you will continue with the outlay of your unit of inquiry and how you started, how you moved on, and how you finished with it. Of course, the last part is the summative assessment, which is your culmination of every unit. And in your comments afterwards, you need to mention at least 2 or 3 lines about the performance of the student, how he or she did in the summative assessment. The information that you have to include in your general comment, which will be applied to all the students of your classroom, the top one, the first one, as I said, has to include your journey, your inquiry journey, how you started the unit, what activities you did, but very briefly. Do not over exaggerate on details and try to give the full detail on what you did in the classroom. You have to be brief, because you did many things and you don't need to write 10 pages as a comment. So you have to have in your mind that you have half a page. Half a page is your general comment, and half a page and less will be your student focus comment. So in the first part, which is the general one, you have to include the activities that you did, what were your subject areas that you integrated in your inquiry, how your collaboration with other teachers happened, if you had any specialists in your classroom, if you went on a field trip, which this year is probably unlikely due to COVID, but you have to mention if you had any research you did, surveys, questionnaires, interviews, outdoor activities that are linked to your unit of inquiry, any student-initiated project or action that was there. You need to mention this as a general comment. Then, in your student-focused unit of inquiry comment, you need to be specific. A very easy way to approach is to have in mind the formative assessments that your students did, and you can start composing your comment on that. So in the first formative assessment, which was based on this line of inquiry, the student performed that, and that, and did this, and this, whatever. The same goes to the 3 formative assessments. And then you have your separate comment on the summative assessment. This will be a very general approach on the student-focused comment. However, what I tend to do, and I think that it adds a little bit more value on my comments, is that I try to give the holistic view of how the student performs in the classroom throughout the unit. So if the student was attentive, if the student was participating and using his skills, if he demonstrated the learner profiles that we are investigating in the unit, what questions intrigued everyone and drove the inquiry, directory, because this is very important now that we are having the agency, voice, and ownership, and like the roles that this particular student had in this unit of inquiry. Were there any leadership tendencies? Did he or she help others? Did he or she was proactive in order to find materials, to ask questions that would help his team perform better? Did he work when he went home without you telling them to do, in order to help the whole team the next day or to perform even better? Did he or she invest time and effort more than what was requested to submit something valuable? All those little details that you observe in a daily basis in the classroom could be accumulated and could be briefly presented in paragraphs in accordance to the comments on the academic subject areas, would give a holistic image, a holistic impression of the performance of the students in the classroom, in the unit of inquiry. Then we move on with English. English is the medium, as we have mentioned in most of our videos, so that means that you are assessing English daily, even if you're not giving them any assessments in the language. So taking the strands of English that we build our lessons and the teaching of English, listening, reading, writing, viewing and presenting, and speaking, of course. Those strands are the ones which you will build your comments on. So if you check the scope and sequence on English, you will see that all the learning outcomes are categorized based on phases. Every phase has specific learning outcomes that the student has to cover after the end of the unit that you have assigned those learning outcomes into. You will have two parts of your comments. The first part will be the general one, what the students learned in English, what grammar structures you taught, what syntax you taught, what types of books you read, what types of writing you investigated and you practiced. All of this information will be included in your general comment. Student-focused comment. You will focus on each student and how he or she performed. Either this will be assessments or presentations or videos or anything that revolves around English. It could be anything. Just try to mention it in the specific strand that it refers to. For example, if you're talking about the descriptive writing and how the student performed in this, then your comment has to be under the writing strand, not the reading one. Or if you are talking about pronunciation and fluency, then or voice intonation, then this has to go under the reading strand. I will share with you some examples again so that you will have a look on what I'm talking about. Last but not least, you have math, and the math has five different strands. You have measurement, number, pattern and function, data handling and shapes. So according to what you studied and what you taught during the first term, then you have to mention only these strands. Again, if you talked about fractions, then you need to mention this comment about fractions in your number strand. If you talked about measuring length, kilograms, milliliters, then this has to go under the measurement strand, and so forth. In math, it's easier to assess students because most teachers follow the traditional way, I would say, like close-ended tasks with problems and facts, and you're done. However, if you are working in a conceptual inquiry-based approach, this will be just a part of your evaluation. So, of course, you need to check how they compete with the algorithmic ways and how they understand the procedures and the methods of the basic operations, the fractions, the shapes, how they use the protractor, all of these things. But also you need to mention their conceptual understanding and comprehension during your activities in the classroom. When you're discussing about the concept of fraction, for example, how do they understand in year 3, let's say, or in year 2, how do they understand what a fraction is? Yes, of course, the fraction is, like the fraction line in two numbers. However, in the conceptual approach, they need to give examples of fractions. They need to understand that the fraction is a part of the whole, but how do they understand that? Are they in the position to demonstrate this understanding into their daily life? This is what we seek for. This is what the conceptual approach strives. And as I mentioned, the information about this has also to be included in your comments, in your student-focused comments. Then the behavior is also a factor that needs to be included in your comments, especially if the behavior affects the performance and the understanding of what has been going on in the classroom. If you have any student or students that their performance is highly affected by their behavior, then you need to mention this in your comments. For example, Maria did not perform well in the summative assessment in math because she was trying to talk with her peers during the assessment, let's say. Like this is a reason that Maria did not show her competency in fractions, and she will need to be reevaluated after the holidays in order to check her further understanding, whatever. Like try to be honest, like be honest, be honest what happened, because this will give the clear picture of why the student is not performing well, even though there is a huge amount of evidence that work has been done in the classroom. The notebooks are written, they are marked, reflection and feedback are given, but why the student is not performing well, this is one of the reasons, because he or she is not paying attention in the classroom, or maybe he or she is absent. Absenteeism is one major factor that affects the performance in all the areas, not only the subject areas, but also the performance in behavior, the development of the skills and the learning profiles. Attendance is fundamental, I would say. And to finalize the report card comments, make sure that you you finish your term comments with a positive note, with a pro tip that will help the students become better in any area. Either this is academics or this is something in their behavior. And of course, be hopeful for the future. This is very important, not only for the students, but also for the parents, who will not feel that their children failed. Unfortunately, there are some parents that are very demanding and they have huge expectations from their children, even though every child is unique, and the skills and competencies of every child are not on the same level as others. So probably you will have a student who is amazing in academics, but he totally lacks in social skills. Whereas you may have the opposite case in another student. It doesn't mean that someone who performs the best in math is also the best student in the classroom, because there are not best students in the classroom. Everyone is unique. We need to explain this to the parents when we have the opportunity, and the report card comments is one very important opportunity to make that clear, that every child matters. Everything those children do in the classroom matter to us. We see everything, we observe everything, and we evaluate and assess everything. It's not only the assessment that counts for their progress. We have to give that impression to the parents. We need to promote this holistic assessment and evaluation of the performance of the children, not only in the academics, but in the behavior, in the skills, and in the learner profiles as well, because all those parts are of equal importance in the IB. Academics, behavior, skills, and profile, because all of those elements consist the IB learner. And we need to make sure that we show that to the parents and to the children as well, because the parents will discuss their report cards for sure with their children. So we need to build something that will go back to the students. That was it, guys, from me. Thank you for being here. I wish you the best of luck in your report card comments this term. Have a wonderful year. As I said, this is the last video of 2020. It was a very interesting year for me. I started my channel. I learned so many things from you guys. I had so many nice conversations in emails. We also had Zoom meetings with some of you to have further discussion and explanation on major thematics and topics of the PYP. The PYP Traveler channel also became a part of the official IB digital library, which was a huge achievement for me and for all of us who supported this project. So stay tuned and take care, because 2021 is coming. Have a happy new year. This is the PYP Traveler. Take care. Bye bye.